cheat gravity by falling and rising instantly. The lecture hall of the Intergalactic Academy of Higher Knowledge had hosted thousands of species shuffling, slithering, buzzing, or gliding into its chambers, but never before had it welcomed anyone like Cadet Mara Kessler, a human exchange student from a planet most of the alien cadets barely recognized on their star charts. The Academy was famous for training the sharpest strategic minds, with pupils guided by professors who had lived centuries and memorized entire archives. It was a place where the youngest Quan Hive debated energy transfer with the elder four scholars, and lax swimmers from Zoj's methane oceans argued chemical propulsion with the crystalline Nval. Mara carried nothing beyond a battered notebook and a smile that unsettled the others. Professor Haru, whose mantle shimmered with bioluminescent stripes of authority, posed a seemingly routine problem. What is the most efficient tactic when a vessel faces 3-to-1 in a gravity well? Students buzzed with their suggestions. Jorel advocated scattering decoys in orbit. The Jack suggested resonance bombs, while the leak calculated fuel-to-thrust ratios with relentless precision. Mara raised her hand. Casually, professors exchanged glances, intrigued. Humans were thought too young a species to add much to such discussions. You, Professor Harrell, said, tendrils waving. Mara shrugged. Cut the engines. Pretend you're dead. Wait until they close in. Then reboot and drop rocks on them. Gravity does most of the work. Silence. Complete silence. Alien. Students tilted heads, mandibles twitching, frills contracting, eye stalks frozen mid-blink. Even the air processors seemed to pause. Professors leaned forward as if holding breath. Professor Haro finally managed. Drop rocks. Mara grinned. Debris, anything nearby. Free ammunition. You don't need to outnumber. Just make them think you're defeated, then remind them the universe is heavier than their ships. A ripple of disbelief swept the hall. Dropping rocks was not in the manuals, not in centuries of simulations designed to teach battle tactics, but it was obvious to humans raised skipping stones and laughing at gravity's persistence. Another professor, Crystalline Veil, spoke like wind chimes. You suggest weaponizing surrender. Mara scribbled. Not surrender. Trickery. Let them think they've already won. They relax. Hey, stop watching. Then you strike. Unexpectedly. Around her, students whispered frantically. Some recoiled at deception. Cultures valuing open strength. Others furiously took notes, impressed by the efficiency. One Jack muttered, "This changes all simulations." Professors exchanged glances, a mix of horror and fascination. For centuries, the Academy had taught predictable solutions, codified strategies, equations perfectly balanced in logic. And here was a human dismantling the curriculum casually with a suggestion so simple it felt heretical. Professor Harrell's voice cracked as he asked, "And you believe this? Dropping rocks applies beyond simulations?" Mara leaned back. It already has. In our history, fleets outnumbered used planets, moons, and rocks as weapons. It's messy, but war isn't meant to be neat. Students gasped, some covering sensory organs as if shielding from audacity. The Academy aimed for refinement, yet this answer was raw and terrifying. A younger alien whispered, "Humans fight with the universe itself." Mara chuckled, "We don't fight fair. Why should we? If smaller, weaker, or fewer, fairness wipes you out. You survive by making the opponent underestimate you." Her words rippled like shock waves. Suddenly, the professor's lights dimmed. Respiratory sacs expanded sharply. Focus caught. Between admiration and dread. One exhaled. This must be studied. Mara opened her notebook to sketch. Rocks raining on cartoon alien ships. Students stared at the crude illustration as if it were a forbidden weapons blueprint. Though the lecture continued, the air had changed forever. Professor Vale summoned Mara front and center the next day. Crystalline facets refracted morning light into shards on walls. Yet nothing distracted from the weight filling the room. The academy buzzed since the humans' answer. Corridors alive with whispers of gravity, deception, and rocks. Alien students who once dismissed Mara now followed cautiously, as if she carried a dangerous flame. Cadet Kessler, Vale's chimes resonant, said, "You will demonstrate this principle." Mara blinked. "You mean drop rocks here?" Students hissed nervously, some clicking mandibles, others fanning gills. Simulation chamber. Professor Harold's stripes of authority flickered with agitation. "We wish to observe your method under controlled conditions." Mara shrugged and followed. The simulation chamber was vast, domed, and capable of projecting entire starfields with fleets of warships. Alien students settled on observation perches while professors set parameters. On the display alone, vessel shimmered into being, dwarfed by 3 enemy ships encircling it in a gravity well. Standard scenario, Harel. Tone. Let us see the human approach. Mara's vessel blinked alive on the console before her. She tapped a few controls, leaned back, and deliberately powered down. Lights winked out. The ship floated like debris. "She's surrendering already," scoffed a Jack cadet. Typical mammal. The enemy ships closed in, cautious but confident, energy beams charged, shields flexing. Mara waited. At the last moment, she slammed her hand on restart. Systems flared, engines roared, and she rerouted minimal power to the gravitic manipulator, nudging a nearby cluster of debris. Rocks, old station fragments, shards of ice. Enemy hadn't scanned them. Those forgotten masses accelerated under gravity, smashing into enemy hulls with crushing force. 2 ships broke apart instantly. The third, stunned and unprepared, veered off course. Vulnerable. Mara leaned forward. Game over. The final ship exploded in a shimmering cascade. Silence fell. And chaos erupted. Students leapt from perches, clicking and shouting. Some accused her of dishonor. Others cheered. Professors could only stare at the wreckage, data replaying endlessly. Vale finally spoke. "It works." Mara scratched her head. "Told you." Professor Harl's stripes dimmed with unease. "This will disrupt centuries of doctrine." He studied her like a weapon. "Why would humans think this way?" Mara's eyes swept the crowd. "Because we had to. We grew up on a planet that throws storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, meteors at us. We survive by turning disasters into tools. To us, every problem is an opportunity with bad marketing." The line rippled through the students like an electric surge. They murmured it as if decoding a sacred mantra. The academy, once a fortress of polished equations, had been cracked by improvisation. In the following days, Mara's reputation grew. Students from rival species trailed her between classes, asking questions, testing theories, daring her to explain human strategies. She described how misdirection won as often as firepower, how laughter unsettled enemies, how humans built traps from junk. At first, aliens resisted, citing honor or tradition. But when Mara sketched collapsing tunnels, feigned retreats, or fires set deliberately against the wind, they stared in stunned silence. Confronted with ideas too practical to ignore, professors convened endless meetings. The Academy's council debated whether allowing Such thinking to spread would destabilize. Instruction. They prized symmetry, neat tactics, elegant balances of power. Yet the human method thrived in chaos, twisting problems into weapons. Rumors spread that the council wanted to restrict Mara's participation, perhaps even send her home. It was too late. Word of her tactics had leaked through cadet correspondence to their home worlds. Military commands demanded reports on the rock strategy and its underlying philosophy. One afternoon, Mara walked into the refectory to find dozens of alien cadets clustered around her usual table. They demanded explanations. One held a data pad full of fleet movements. Another brought siege machinery blueprints. All wanted to know the same thing: how a human would solve this. Mara laughed. "Guys, I'm just trying to eat lunch." "No," insisted a corn with glowing sensory pits. "You are trying to change the universe." She rolled her eyes but explained anyway, drawing diagrams on napkins with spilled sauce, showing how ambushes succeed best when the enemy believes they cornered you. Her words spread faster than the council could contain. Soon, cadets challenged one another in duels inspired by human tactics. They feigned stumbles, struck unexpectedly. Professors intervened but could not stop the tide. Mara's unorthodox thinking had engulfed the academy. Still, she sensed something darker. One night, she overheard senior professors whispering of an approaching war. Beyond the academy, species had aligned against humans. Convinced these dangerous creatures must be checked before their ideas spread, Mara's stomach twisted. The academy was no longer just a school. It was a survival testing ground. The council chamber pulsed with tension as professors gathered in concentric rings of light, their forms flickering uneasily. Rumors solidified. An alliance of ancient alien civilizations had declared war on humanity. The pretext: humans were disruptive, unpredictable, dangerous. The truth: human ideas threatened centuries of doctrine, and those who thrived on order demanded chaos extinguished. Mara sat at the center, notebook on her lap, eyes narrowing at enemy fleets forming along human space. "So that's it," she said. "They'll wipe us out because we think differently." Harl's bioluminescent stripes dimmed. "Your kind spreads dangerous thinking. Many fear that if humans rise, no system remains safe." Mara tapped her pen. "Safe for them. Maybe not for the rest." Silence thickened with unspoken truth. Alien cadets who had sneered now regarded her with hope and fear. They had learned, laughed, debated, and realized she was right. Mara snapped her notebook shut. "Fine. Let's see if my dangerous ideas can save us." Professors exchanged worried glances, but before they could object, dozens of cadets stood. A Jack slammed his claw to his chest. "We fight with her." A Chew flared sensory pits. "We will not let doctrine kill imagination." Even Vale's crystalline body chimed brighter. Perhaps it was time the universe learned to breathe in chaos. Within hours, the academy transformed. Simulation chambers became training grounds. Star maps lit the halls as Mara guided cadets through improvisational drills. She taught them how to feign collapse, how to lure enemies into overconfidence, how to weaponize the environment. Instead of reciting equations, students set ambushes, arranged stairwells, and devised new maneuvers from scraps of machinery. For the first time in centuries, the academy pulsed with something alive: unpredictability. When the war arrived, it came with overwhelming force. Massive alien fleets surged across human borders, ships bristling with centuries of refined technology. On paper, humanity had no chance. But Mara had prepared more than humans. She had prepared the academy itself. Alien cadets who once trained only in theory now led squadrons. Alongside human fleets, they carried the rock strategy and countless other tricks born of desperation and creativity. In the first great clash, 3 enemy armadas cornered a human defense line near a red dwarf. Outnumbered, outgunned humans powered down their ships. Enemy approached confident. Then gravity became a weapon. Asteroid belts nudged into motion. Fields of debris became hammers. Enemy fleets shattered under the weight of their arrogance. Word spread quickly. Frontline reports bewildered. Enemy commanders. Humans pretending to surrender. Fleets vanishing only to reappear behind enemy lines. Damaged. Ships exploding at the perfect moment. Collapsing formations. Nothing followed. The old doctrines. Every battle became unpredictable, terrifying. Behind every move was the ghost of a human smile sketched on a napkin. The Academy's professors could only watch as their carefully balanced equations of war crumbled under improvisation. Some feared it, others marveled secretly. By the second year, defections spread. Alien cadets once bound by species doctrine now sided with humans. Unable to deny the brilliance of thinking that turned weakness into strength, the enemy alliance fractured under paranoia, each blaming the other for losses. Mara herself commanded a joint fleet. Near the twilight world of Ver, stood on the bridge, notebook tucked into her jacket, giving orders that seemed absurd to her crew until they worked. Drift dead, spin, then fire. Thrusters on my mark. Captain, that will expose our flanks. Yeah, but it exposes theirs more. Did. Entire fleets collapsed into chaos under maneuvers no algorithm could predict. Humans fought like storms. Cadets trained under Mara amplified that storm into a hurricane. The final battle came at the edge of the Orion Divide, where the largest alien fleet gathered to crush humanity once and for all. Thousands of ships glittered like a wall of inevitability. Mara stood before her assembled commanders, humans, Jack, Quanhive, Unveith, Leek, all carrying traces of her teaching. She drew one last crude diagram. A line of rocks tumbling across the enemy formation. Remember this, she said. It's not about strength. It's about making them believe they've already won. Then showing them gravity disagrees. The battle raged for days. Enemy weapons, honed over centuries, were unleashed, but Allied fleets shifted like dancers, feigning collapse, vanishing and reappearing with ruthless precision. At the heart of it, Mara ordered the detonation of an abandoned station. Its fragments, pulled by the star's gravity, smashed straight into the enemy core. The resulting cascade tore their formation apart. By the time the dust settled, the once mighty alliance lay in ruins. Silence stretched across the void. Humanity had survived. More than that, it had won. Back at the Academy, the halls were transformed. Equations still lined the walls, but beside them hung sketches of rocks, rivers, storms, and arrows scrawled in human handwriting. Students from dozens of species debated not just how to calculate power, but how to twist, bend, and surprise it. Professors no longer gasped at Mara's answers. They asked her to teach. On the final day of the war's reckoning, Mara walked into the lecture hall where it had all begun. Cadets filled the chamber, waiting. Professor Vale gestured for her to speak. She looked at eager faces, mandibles, eye stalks, crystalline bodies reflecting light, and said, "The universe is chaos. Stop pretending it isn't. Learn to dance with it, and you'll never run out of moves." The hall erupted, not with gasps this time but cheers. For the first time in the Academy's long history, professors breathed freely. At the center of it all, one human closed her notebook and smiled, knowing the future of war, learning, and survival had been rewritten forever.